Hey, Senda.
Hey, Phil.
What do you do if you gotta ask somebody in your game group to leave? Like, you got any ideas?
That's a hard one. That's like a hard one.
Enough to make a show out of?
Yeah, we should probably talk about it.
Okay. Cue music. And welcome to another fine episode of Panda's Talking Games. I'm one of your hosts who's cold and in the basement, Phil.
I am your other host, Senda, who is neither cold nor in the basement.
Yes.
I'm shockingly not cold, and it is probably because I am wearing a turtleneck, a sweater, a scarf, a wool skirt, and fleece-lined tights. And I am upstairs.
I should get fleece-lined tights for recording during the winter.
Fleece-lined tights are the shit.
I mean, I'm wearing sweatpants. I'm wearing sweatpants, a t-shirt, a hoodie, and then I have a fleece blanket over my lap to try to keep things warm. But my legs are still a little cold, and now I'm thinking fleece tights is really what I'm lacking.
Yeah, fleece tights are...
Yeah.
Although I'll tell you, I think the real reason my legs are warm, because I have done this for a while, is not actually the fleece-lined tights. They help. It is the wool skirt. This is why I obsessively went out.
I need a wool skirt, is what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe look in the kilt department. I mean, don't you?
No, I own a kilt.
Isn't it wool?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go.
It's like 4 pounds of wool.
Yes, you would be warm if you
I suspect I would.
Yes.
I don't know if I want to just be sitting here slouching in a chair in my family kilt that I had made in Scotland.
Formal, very nice family kilt that I'm sure is
when we get to when we get to the after show, I'll talk more about my kilt.
Your kilt. Okay,
but in the meantime,
more about my skirt.
In the meantime, we have a deep discussion.
We have a show to do that is not about us being cold, nor about wool.
Yes, we're going to save skirts. We're going to save skirt talk for the after show. But for now, I think we have a question from a good friend of the show and member of the Slack Room for Life, right? JT Evans?
It's true. And fellow gnome. JT wanted us to talk about the best approaches for uninviting a player. Not the reasons why you might do it, but how to do it without causing more issues than are already in place.
Yeah, and look, it's not a super cheerful topic, but I think it's important. I'll start by basically what we're saying here for a definition, right? Is that we are, in the simplest terms, we need a person who is in the group, in the game that you're playing to not be in the gaming group anymore, right?
Yeah.
We're going to
play this game.
Right. We're going to talk in a little bit about why that might be, although to honor JT's request, we're actually not going to delve deep into the whys, but we are going to talk a little bit about some general categories of whys, and you'll find out in a bit because it's important. But I will say this, that your enjoyment of a role-playing game is going to be affected by the group that you play with, right?
100%,
group dynamics,
yeah.
Right. Group dynamics are a huge portion of it. I would probably say it's the most important thing. I could play the clunkiest 80s role-playing game if I played it with my group.
Yeah.
And enjoy it.
Right, people. Yep.
More than I could play the coolest game with people that I don't enjoy.
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's fair to say that group dynamic, that is how you as a group connect to one another and kind of give and take energy from one another, is probably the most important thing. And if something is off with somebody in the group, right? And we'll talk a little bit about what could be off. But if something's off in the group and the group dynamic is disrupted by it.
Yes.
Whether everybody is having a problem with a certain person, that's entirely possible. Whether you're having a problem with a certain person,
yep.
Or some subset is, whatever, or one faction versus another. There are many different ways that the group dynamic can destabilize. But when that happens, honestly, the game is just not as much fun.
Yeah, it just isn't.
It just isn't. And so time is precious. Your time is precious and valuable. And if you're taking your time to GM a game, right? We all know the extra work that takes to be a GM, or you're taking your time just to come out and show up for a game, in this case, just showing up online, but later in the future, going back to showing up in person, then you owe it to yourself to be playing in a game with a good group dynamic. And sometimes, and this is not fun, sometimes that means that somebody in the group has to go.
Yeah. And I will say, having been in this situation a couple of times before myself, right? Like, you might be saying to yourself right now, and I'm just going to say this because I've said this to myself, right? Like, but some game is better than no game. That's not actually always true.
We're going to talk about why that might. We'll talk about that when we get into some considerations about why it might. Yeah, you might say that.
But
there are cases where you can say that. In cases where I would highly recommend you don't say that, right? We'll talk about that.
Right.
And I get what you're saying because I've totally done it too. Right. I've totally done it.
The key here is, right, like, we are how many, like, 10 months in on pandemic here, my friends. And, like, your time and mental energy is really valuable. And so if you are currently playing a game that is not giving you back the value that you are putting into it, now is not the time to fuss around with it. And
so I'm going to extend your statement one forward, right?
Oh, okay.
I agree with everything you said. I'm just going to take objection to one part, which is before pandemic, we may not have given the proper value to self-care and our recreation and the things that recharge us, give us spoons, etc. Whereas as you were saying right now, like, it's so precious to get spoons back that if something isn't giving you spoons, you should make changes to fix it.
Marie Kondo your games.
I would like to say that going forward post-pandemic, we should not let go of that.
Yeah, we should keep that. I'm with you. That's super fair. But like, it is definitely a thing, right? Like, if it's not bringing you joy, then it's worth fixing or figuring out, if you keep it.
Correct. And pre-pandemic, right? Pre-pandemic, I don't think my priorities for self-care were correct.
Right.
And during pandemic, I think I've done a much better job, right? Maybe a little overindulgent, a tad, but probably not.
Probably not.
I have weathered a good portion of this pandemic because I have placed that priority on self-care.
Yes.
And I think coming out of pandemic, we owe it to ourselves to not throw that away.
I agree.
Okay, so everything you said was correct. I just don't want people to be like, "Oh, it's 2021, back to
we're done. We're done here. I should torture myself again."
Carry that forward. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna set this up. Mm-hmm. You need to, as JT said, we're gonna go with JT's question here, which is you need to kick someone out of the group. So things that we're not going to talk about. One, we're not going to talk about suffering through it. Right. We've already made our point about it. And I think as we talk, you'll find out that there's cases where maybe suffering through it a little or a while is one thing. Highly not recommended in certain cases. In other cases.
Just depends. Yeah.
Yeah. Just depends. And the other thing is that you can't fix this problem. Right. Because if the problem was fixable.
Yeah.
Exactly. If the problem was fixable, like you just had to tell this person to share the spotlight or something, we assume you already did that.
Right. We're assuming you've already taken steps to try to resolve this, and that the only solution available to you at this point is this person can't play this game anymore for whatever that reason is, right?
Correct.
So from this point forward, with that assumption in mind, because we hope that you've already communicated some of this, right? Because the answer to all GMing question is communicate. So from here, there are 4 considerations, right?
Right. And so the first consideration, and I don't remember if we put them in this order, but I will put it right to the top of the list.
I'm just gonna take whichever ones you don't remember.
Okay. The first consideration is the reason that you need to kick this person out of the group. And there are 3 general categories. The specifics don't even matter. We're going to bucket them into 3 categories. The first one is a safety issue.
Right.
So whatever this person is doing is jeopardizing the safety of the game.
Yes.
Okay. The next category is that they're not a good fit with the group.
Yes.
Like maybe they're an okay role player, but they're obnoxious. They're a jerk. And like people just aren't enjoying having the person in the group, but like they can play the game.
Right.
And then the last one is that somebody's not having fun.
Yeah.
Right? Like the game is not enjoyable because of whatever this person is doing.
Yes.
Right? Like they don't like this genre, so they're like not like they refuse to engage with the tropes, or in a kids and bike game they've chosen not to have a bike.
Right.
Like they've made the kid right. They've made the kid that's not having the bike or whatever.
I don't know how to ride a bike. Well,
yeah. Whatever it is. And again, to honor JT's thing, we're not going to get into the whys. Now,
it's not specifics.
Among those 3 considerations, everything else that we're going to talk about applies to the latter 2.
Right.
Not a good fit, not having fun.
Not having fun, right? If we're talking about safety, that's different.
This is a hard stop.
Yes.
You need to just end this game in whatever way, and we'll talk about ways in a second. You need to end this game in whatever way you feel safest and be done with it.
Yep.
Okay. Because if you are talking about safety to yourself or to other members of the group, or even to the person who's playing the game, like they're being unsafe and endangering themselves, right? Nothing else matters.
Yeah. The rest of everything else that we will say is sort of moot, because it's about then dealing with bad fits and not fun, right? Because safety is it's a no-go.
It's a hard stop, no go. Pick whatever the fastest way for you to put this game into the dirt, and then figure out what to do after that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That aside, because I like this topic because we're going to talk about how to find a way to ask somebody to leave, and I think that's fine when it's not a safety issue, right? Subtlety, soft skills, all of those things can be applied when it's not a safety issue. Safety is a very different problem.
Right. You can still use your people skills.
You can, but you gotta expedite the thing.
Yeah.
And you'll get it in a few minutes when we talk about some of the different ways that we're talking about.
Okay.
But again, safety first. Okay. Yeah. Do another consideration, then toss me one.
Okay. So another one that is just consistently floats to the top of the list, right? And is just something that I think everyone pretty much encounters, is the overlap of your game group with your social group. It can be very difficult to ask one of your friends who you would like to remain friends with to leave or step out of a game because it has other social repercussions outside of the game space, right?
I have been trapped more times. Yeah. I have been trapped more times into making weak or bad decisions because exactly of this thing. Yeah,
I mean that's definitely, every time it's happened to me, this has been like the big factor of like holding back, right?
Yep, absolutely. Cool. There's a huge stumbling block.
Just a big one, right?
Yep.
So tell me about like your consideration in terms of the game itself. Is it ongoing or ending?
Right. So if you are at a point where you want to remove this person from the group and you are close to the end of the game, you have different options than if you are in the middle of your campaign.
Yes.
Right. So if you're close to the end of your game, your option could be, and we'll talk about this in a second, is just to let this game end and not put them in the next game.
Right.
Right. That's a very reasonable thing. We'll talk about that technique in a minute. But what it means is that you can basically what it's coming down to is that whatever reason you don't want to play with this person, you can tolerate it for a couple of sessions to get to the end of the game. And then there's no disruptions to continuity, to plot lines, to those things, because you've brought the game to the end. If you're in the middle of a game, taking somebody out can sometimes have repercussions. Again, and we've always said this, don't ever hinge your whole plot on a single character, but in case you didn't listen to us and you have built your plot around the character that you don't, around the character of the player you are having a problem with, you also have problems that you're going to have to repair in your game. That may also, that'll be a factor weighing on your decision about what to do. And again, this is why we said it applies to the other two, not the safety one, right?
Yes.
None of this is true for safety. Just end your game.
Yes.
But that is going to have that is a consideration you have to take, because it asks the question, like, could you get to the end of this game? And I have done this, right? Like, I have not enjoyed playing with someone and then have been like, yeah, but there's like only 3 more sessions in this game. I don't think I'll just ride it out.
Right, which kind of leads to our next one, which just has to do with your personal tolerance for conflict and drama. Right? Mm-hmm. And how comfortable you are managing that. And how much of an adult you think this person will be.
Well, yeah, because
you have a conversation with them.
Because asking someone to leave is going to be some sort of uncomfortable conversation.
It's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. And there just isn't any way around that. It's inevitable. So, like, I think one of the considerations, like, for how many sessions are left is also, like, weighing how many sessions are left versus how good do I feel about being able to have this conversation with the weight of the social pressure that may be coming down upon me.
Like both you and I are conflict averse in this case, right?
Yes.
Like, neither one of us really like this. So,
yes.
I always lean away from this. But for instance, my co-host on Misdirected Mark, Jerry owns a business.
Yeah.
Jerry has to fire people. Not all the time, but Jerry has to fire people as part of being the owner of a business.
Right.
And so for Jerry, it may be a different decision for him, because he could be like, yeah, I could totally just tell this person to stop coming to the game.
Yeah.
Or I can have this hard conversation with him. Whereas I'm like, oh, I could have this hard conversation, but this will cost me.
Right. This will cost me. I could just suck it up for 2 more sessions and then we'll be done anyway.
Correct. Correct. And those are honest considerations. Look, I don't want to, you read articles where, the article's like, and you got to tell the person to leave. But like, look, this shit is hard.
Yeah.
For the reasons that we just said. You have to have a difficult conversation. You may have a personal friendship with this person outside of the gaming group. And, my gaming group, the overlap between my gaming group and my social group is very tight.
Yeah,
because
it's like 98% or something.
Well, because I'm middle-aged, I don't have a ton. I'm middle-aged. I have kids and a career. Like, I don't have 50 friends.
Yeah, no,
I got 7.
I'm with you. And mine is, the older I get, the more it's very clear to me that my inner circle, like the people that I just want to spend time with, are the people in my game
The same people you want to
group.
game with. Right?
Yeah. Like, I have friends outside of that, but
it's not the same.
They are not the people that I talk to with the same consistency or anything at all.
It is 100% the same with me, right? So if you are in a case where you I have tons of friends and then I also have gaming people, like, that's an easy thing to be like, yeah, I'll just not I'm just going to tell that person that, this isn't a good fit for them and they shouldn't play. But if it's like all of your if the rest of your social group is playing this game and you just kick that person out, that's hard.
Yeah.
And or maybe impossible.
Yeah.
So it is a huge consideration. And I will say this, and I think I have written articles about this in the past, or I've at least talked on panels about this. This shit is hard. Like, if this was easy, people would kick people out of groups all the time. It is not.
We don't.
It is messy. It is uncomfortable. It involves interpersonal shit that you may or may not be either prepared for or, skilled at. Hard. Okay. But assuming that you're going forward.
Yes.
Okay. But assuming you're going forward in consideration of all the things we talked about, there are some ways to there are some techniques, right? We're going to talk about techniques, and then we're going to talk about communication styles, right?
Yes. Some of which will overlap a little bit, but yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
There are some techniques you can do. I'll mention the first one because I mentioned it earlier. Mm-hmm. Right? The first one is that you can end this game and start a new game without the person.
Yes.
Right? This is I call this the soft landing.
This is the one that I have done.
Yeah, I've done this one many times, right?
Times.
This is the soft landing. It is the least confrontational.
Yep.
Right? It brings the game to a conclusion. It then dissolves the game group.
Yep.
You let a little time pass.
Yep.
You form a new game group.
Right.
Without that person.
Yes.
And you continue on. If your circle of players and the game you're playing, if your circle of players and your social group is really tight, this will be harder to pull off. If you have a slightly more dispersed group, this might be easier. And if you have, like in my social group of friends, there are like multiple games going on.
Yeah, and not
like
everybody plays in all of them.
Not
right?
everybody's playing in everybody's games.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier to be like, I'm forming this group and you're already playing in another,
group,
you're already playing another game. I didn't, whatever. So that's the soft landing. And I like it. I personally like it because I'm not hot on confrontation. But it works. It only works if you are closer to the end of the campaign. Like if you are 20 sessions out from your campaign, This is not a viable solution.
No, it's not a solution at all.
It's not a solution at all. But if you're like in the tail end, like I'm not going to go into any details or stories, but I had a particularly, I had a very long running campaign that was winding down in the fall. And at the time of Gen Con, some serious friend drama occurred. And we managed to just play out the handful of sessions between Gen Con into like mid-fall or something, and then just put the game down and walk away. And it wasn't easy, but it brought the game to a satisfying conclusion, which in the end, I think everybody, even the person who we no longer play with, enjoyed. Mm-hmm. But it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. It wasn't easy. Those sessions weren't they weren't fantastic. They weren't terrible. It was a little uncomfortable. Anyway, that's the soft landing. Mm-hmm. What's the next one?
So the next one is group discussion.
I think we should codename this one the intervention.
Yeah, this is the intervention.
Like from How I Met Your Mother, right? Like this is
sign.
This is the intervention.
This is the one where you don't have to go it alone, right?
Correct.
But you do have to be careful because if you are suddenly as a group turning on one person, they may feel pretty attacked.
Yep.
Right? But this is something where as a group, you can have a conversation about something that is not working. And, and I mean, part of this is like, but hopefully you've had some sort of conversation about something that's not working before, right? So then this is kind of more like the follow-up conversation where you're like, this is still not working. And, we're not sure that you're having fun and it's making it harder for other people to have fun. And maybe we should try, maybe a different game would be a better fit for you, right?
Yeah. Right. Now, I think there's a couple ways you can do it, right? So you can have the full-on intervention where the group is talking to one person, right? And is like, look, we're having a problem. It's not a good fit. We think that, this game isn't really good, isn't a good fit for you. And we'd like to, maybe like we'd like to play with you again in the future, that kind of thing, right? That's like the group breakup.
That is the group breakup, yes.
The other way you can do this is there is a variant of this that I will call the escape hatch, right? Because I like naming these tonight, right?
Yeah, apparently you do.
This is, the escape hatch is where you have the discussion, but you don't target any one person.
Yeah.
So you're just like, look, if people aren't having fun with this game,
if people aren't having fun with this game, like you're having trouble with the genre, you don't like it or whatever, like it would be a good time right now if anyone wanted to step out, like the game will be, like it won't be a big deal, and you can just put it out there as like an open thing, right? And then you'll get some people will be like, no, I totally love this genre, totally love this game, no, I'm in, and then maybe
because you've opened the escape hatch, the person will, like, maybe they'll just simply say like, well, I don't think I'm really liking it. And then supportively, the group can say like, well, if you're not enjoying it, then like, why are you playing it? Like, and they might be like, well, I don't want to not be friends with you guys, and be like, well, no, we can always be friends. Like, or you should totally play like a sci-fi game with us next, or what, like it can create a conversation where the person who needs to leave, might just leave. Like they may just choose to leave because the group has kind of, empowered them to leave in a way that's non-confrontational as well.
Yeah, which is great if the person
if the person takes it, right?
Yeah, if the person who is the problem is self-aware enough,
correct,
to also be experiencing issues,
correct,
then that is a great way to do it. But so you will have to make a call on if you think that is your person or not. There are certainly people I can think of who would definitely take that out, who would just be like, this game is not for me, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean,
fine.
There are people that'll go right over their heads.
Yeah, I'm like, there are also definitely people that I'm like, I don't think that they would get that.
No. The escape hatch is not a for every situation, but the escape hatch the escape hatch is a case where you suspect the person wants to leave.
Yes, but they don't want to, and for whatever reason.
They don't want to rock the boat, and you want them to leave, and you haven't rocked the boat. And this is a way to kind of like mutually save face.
Yes.
Because the other one that you were talking about, the intervention, you have to, one of the things you have to do if you are kind of leading the intervention is you've got to do your part not to make it a gang up, like 5-on-1 kind of thing.
It can't be a group attack on one person about how they're
correct,
shitty.
Because that's just brutal.
That's terrible.
You need to actually get in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. And take like we're having some problems, this, like that kind of thing. And actually hold some of those people back.
Yeah. You basically have to kind of be a moderator.
Exactly.
And just bring everybody to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and again, each one of these has different approaches. They each have a different pro and con to it, right? So again, we've done the soft landing. Mm-hmm. We've done the intervention. We've done the escape hatch. And the last one, I think, is just the "Can you come to my office?" Right? Like,
I was wondering what you were going to name.
Oh, we'll call it the principal's office.
Oh, the principal's office.
Right?
Oh, boy.
And the principal's office is just a one-on-one conversation.
Yes.
Where you're going to tell the person that they're out of the group.
You're going to expel them?
Yeah, exactly. This is hard if you are not comfortable having the conversation, right? The intervention and the escape hatch gives you the advantage of having the group.
Yeah, more
for your own support.
For your own support,
right?
Yes.
Where this one is a one-on-one discussion. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. It can be hard. So for some people, it's not going to be hard. For some people, honestly, it'll be like, look, this isn't working. I'm sorry, but like, please don't come to the game next week.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if I could do that.
I don't know if I can do that either.
Like, I really don't. I don't know if I could do that. Maybe if the situation was correct, maybe I could do the one-on-one, but probably I'm going to fall for the other three.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm probably going to go for one of the other three because the one-on-one is the worst one for me.
It's intense. I mean,
it is intense.
I will say there is one more thing we put down here, and this is your last resort, right? And here's the thing. I have skipped over other options on this list to take this one because my tolerance for conflict is extremely low.
Is this the ejection seat?
This is the ejection seat.
Yes.
Good. Thank you for the name. I needed one, and I was giving you time to come up with one.
I'm right there for you.
I appreciate it. So the ejection seat is, this game isn't fun for me because of this person. They either aren't leaving, don't want to leave, no one else cares, whatever it is. So therefore, I'm going to make the correct call for myself and I'm going to walk myself out of this game, right? So if you can't resolve it using any of the other options, then you always have the option, because we cannot control other human beings. We can communicate and try to do our best with them. And hopefully people are mature and will have conversations with you, right? But worst case scenario, the person you can always control is yourself. And so you can always walk away from this game.
So now I'm going to tell you something.
Yes.
That is also true.
Okay.
That is naturally occurring, but can also be manipulated, which is kind of shady, but is built on this.
Okay.
And that is, and I'm going to name it right now because we're riffing, right? So I'm just going to, I'm going to give it its code name.
Give me a name.
Its code name is called the chain reaction.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
So when you pull yourself out of the game,
Yes.
and it's because of problem player,
Yes.
like that may trigger somebody else in the group.
Oh, I have
to be like, oh, hell no, are you leaving the game because of so-and-so, right? Like this may happen in a private chat or whatever, right? Like, or they may be like, oh, if you're leaving, well, then I'm leaving.
That's what happened to me. Like we all kind of just decided to leave.
That's the chain reaction. Now, when I say it's naturally occurring, right?
Yes.
Like if you just pull yourself out of the game graciously and you're like, I'm leaving, blah, blah, blah. And then other people are like, oh, I am too, right? Then the whole thing collapses and it's done.
Yep.
But I will tell you that in a manipulative way, you could use that as a move to force
Don't recommend
I'm not
this.
saying do it. I'm saying it can be done, right? Like you could pull out and cause the chain reaction to occur, and the end result is the other person gets booted out, and you wind up staying in the group. I'm not advocating this. I'm stating that it exists.
Okay, well, I've been part of the chain reaction in which we all just stopped playing because we were all not having fun. We did not ever start playing again, right? We were all just like, yeah, this isn't doing it for me. And thus began the desert of my gaming for many years.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, right? So,
No, it's because I actually was like, I don't know if gaming is fun anymore. Like, I really didn't enjoy that last game. It was terrible. And I think
we could have that as a future discussion to talk about the dry spells of gaming, right? When gaming isn't fun and things like that. Because there are definitely things.
We could talk about that. In my case, I feel like it gets into a lot of like messy life stuff that I'm.
No, it's fine. I know. I actually know the story for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to bring us back around.
We've
talked. All right. So here's what we've done. I'm recapping as we're going.
Recap.
We talked about some things you needed to consider. Mm-hmm. We've talked about different structures by which you can take somebody out of the group.
Mm-hmm. With code names.
And most of the structures that we talked about also can be done with different forms of communication.
Right. So the next thing that we're going to address is the different ways that you can communicate some of these issues or basically approach the techniques, right? Not all of them are going to work for everything. And some of them, you may pick from the list depending, again, on your tolerance for conflict, right? Because that's another part of the considerations for this. But also, there are also considerations about, like, sometimes some of these are easier for people to hear in different forms than they are in other forms, right?
Correct.
So the very, very first one on this list is asynchronous, by which we would mean something like an email, right?
Yes.
Something that is not a synchronized conversation, but that you would write a message and send it off, and they might reply or they might not.
And this could also be a text message done late at night when no one's on.
Yes.
Right? Like you could just text it, drop it, and walk away.
Yeah. It's whatever it is. It's a communication to which you send it off, and then you just ignore it unless or until anything comes back, which could be tomorrow or 7 days from now or whatever, right?
Right. And what that allows you to do is, one, you're not interacting with anyone. So it manages some of the tension. Mm-hmm. Two, because it's asynchronous and you've prepared it, like it gives you a chance to write it and prepare it.
Yep. And to
reread
really
it.
Think about it. Make sure that you are, only saying what needs to be said and not just throwing out, anything personal. Like
your wording is good.
You want to make this as kind as possible.
You might let it sit and draft for a day or two.
Yep.
Right? Just like cool off a little, then come back to it, that kind of thing. Right. So it has a lower emotional threshold because you're in control of it.
Yes.
And you're not expecting a response.
Right. Or
so you're not having to prepare yourself for dealing with a
for immediate response. And the other part of that is even if you get an immediate response, it doesn't mean that you are obliged to then respond immediately. You can take time if there is a response to really think through that response, and to, again, draft something or whatever you need to do, right? Because you can manage the pace of that conversation, and it only needs to go as fast as you want it to.
Yeah.
Right? So
that is your low emotional energy initial solution.
Yeah.
The next one.
Let's say one more thing about that. The only bad thing about that is that there are definitely some scenarios in which that's not going to feel very good for the person on the other end, just because it's not very personal. And
correct.
So there's a certain amount of like breaking up with someone over email is.
Yes, there's there's a Sex and the City episode where Carrie gets broken up on a Post-it note.
Yeah, it's a little,
and it's it's impersonal, and the reason you would do it is if you are adverse to conflict, and this is the only way that you can say what you need to say in a way that you feel safe or calm or have the spoons for, right? Yes. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. So again, it is
valid. It lacks personal.
It lacks some personal
touch,
yes.
And so this is you got to make the call based on the situation. You know, if this is your best friend and you don't want them in your game group anymore, maybe dropping them an email and walking away for a week is going to damage some of your other considerations, like your social interactions. Right. So this is like you got to make these. To be clear, you got to make these calls based on your specific situation. Which
we're going to talk about right after we talk about these communication things.
Yep. I felt like I had to wrap a little bit around that.
No, that's good. The next one is synchronous, but not face-to-face.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like partial synchronous, because you can take some time, a little bit of time, right?
Yeah, and I think that so what we're talking about is like having a text chat, having a discussion in Discord where the other person is there.
Yeah, like
right?
Actually,
not where you drop a thing and walk away, but you're like, "Hey, are you there?
Right?
Hey, do you have a moment to talk?
Can we chat for a second?" Yeah. But you're going to do it via text because it's easier to take time and think through your words and make sure that you're not going to say something that you regret or whatever it is, right?
But also it's text, so you don't have to read anybody's faces, right? Like they're not reading yours. You don't have to maintain a mask if again, if you're somebody who has conflict aversion issues, right? Like okay. And sometimes it's been my experience in life that sometimes it's easier to say things in text to somebody, even if you're good friends with them, to say it in text first and then, later in face to face.
Yeah.
Like it lowers the emotional stakes a bit.
Yeah. It's actually a lot easier sometimes to be vulnerable via text, I have found also.
And you can, and it's still personal because you're having the back and forth.
Yeah. Because you've said,
conversation.
Are you there? I want to actually talk to you about this.
Yeah. It's like bubble wrapped. Yeah. Right. So it's like you have some shielding, but you're also having a dialogue, an active dialogue. Yeah. Okay. And then the next one.
The next one is the intervention again.
Well, it's talking in a group.
It's talking in a group, which we talked about a little bit, right? So again, the key thing with this is you have more people around you, you have more support. You're not doing this by yourself, but you are having a face-to-face conversation. And the key parts of this are that you're making sure that it's not like 5 people yelling at one person that they suck or something, right? Yep. Or even very nicely all telling them to leave can also still be really difficult, right? So you got to kind of be able to be in the middle and make sure that like everybody can express where they are and that you can come to an arrangement that works for everybody. And the thing about having this conversation as a group is it means that as a group, you may be able to say something like, you may be able to meld some other things in like, hey, this doesn't seem to be working out for everyone. Do you want to stick around for the next 2 sessions so we polish off the storyline and then, we'll go from there or whatever, right? Like it
you're
gives
getting
you
to the
options.
end of. I'm just let me do the last
Sorry.
one because we can get to the end.
Sorry.
Because you're starting to put it all together.
I know,
It's okay.
I can't help it. I'm jumping ahead.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's exactly where we're heading. All right. So the last one, of course, is one-on-one face-to-face,
Yes.
which we talked about as well. It is obviously the most exposed. It is the one where like there is no one else to buffer you. Your facial expressions, their facial expressions, everything is going to be there. Like if you hurt them, you're going to see it, right?
Yes.
Like, and if you're scared or like angry or like it's all going to be there. It's on the table. Whether it's a Zoom call or in the future, back in, in the future, face to face or whatever. Okay. That said, we talked about the considerations, we talked about techniques, and we talked about different types of communication. So here's the thing, and I don't think this is a surprise if you listen to this show. There is no one right way to do this.
No.
Every situation is going to be different, and you're different. The person that's the problem that you're asking to leave is different. And so what we've presented to you is a menu of options that you can then assemble into your solution. So what you had just talked about
Yes.
was you were talking about the escape hatch. You were talking about the escape hatch, but also ending the the escape hatch plus ending the arc.
Yes.
Right? Like that the consideration of where are you in the game?
Yep.
Right? So you basically were like, hey, if people want to leave after the next 2 sessions, right? Like, hey, let's bring the game to a place where we can set it on the ground and the people who want to stay can keep playing. Right? And create the escape hatch so that the person who's not having fun knows it's okay to leave.
Or even if you've now, moderated something between the group and the person that isn't working out and being able to say, like, why don't we wrap these 2 sessions and then we'll ask you back when we're playing a different game or whatever.
Exactly. So what you're gonna do with the considerations, the techniques, and the communications is you're going to look at what works for you. Like if you are a person who sitting face to face with someone is terrifying, then like text might be the right. Like you can have the intervention via Discord chat. You can have the principal's office, the one-on-one via chat.
Yeah.
Right? You can send an email. For the soft landing, right? You can be like, hey guys, I just want to let you know we've got about 4 more sessions for this. So this can be an email, right?
Yeah.
4 more sessions of this game and then we're going to be done. And I think I want to take a break after this campaign for, a couple weeks, a month or whatever. And, when I know what I want to do next, I'll let you guys know.
Yeah. And that's the soft landing is the easy one to do by email.
Yeah. I mean, it's just informational, right? Like we're all going to end this, right? And it's all of those factors that have to come together. And that's why this thing is messy.
Yeah, it's
right?
messy. And also, can we just say, if you're listening to this episode because you're in this situation, like, I'm sorry. Like, it's hard and it stinks. And I'm sorry that you have to mess with it.
Yeah, I mean, most of our advice that we give is like how not to get into the situation or how to kind of correct it if you are.
Yeah.
But there are times where it's not correctable. And I will tell you, for the few times that I've had to do it in my gaming career, afterwards has always been better.
Yeah. Yep.
It sucks
to
in the
do
moment.
it. Yeah.
But afterwards, looking back on it,
like
I've always been like,
goodness,
that was a better that was the better thing to do.
Yeah.
So I will say that me personally, right? I am very much a text person.
Yep.
Or group discussion person. I am by nature, by my job, I'm very much about building consensus. So text or group chat, I like the soft landing the most. Mm-hmm. The escape hatch, if I think the other person wants to leave but is afraid to.
Yeah.
Right? Like then, but if not that, then the intervention.
I mean,
the one that I'm the least likely to do is call you to the principal's office face to face. That is the least likely thing I'm going to do to stop a game.
I mean, it is really interesting because thinking through times that I have dealt with this, I have definitely done the soft landing, right? Like I've definitely done that a couple of times. And done it by email doing exactly like that, like, well, yay, this is going to be done in 2 sessions or whatever. And then, we'll take a break and maybe figure out what we're doing later. So I've definitely done that. But honestly, when that hasn't worked for me, in the past, I have walked away from games and started chain reactions. I was not doing it in a manipulative way. I did not intend to start a chain reaction. I have also been part of a chain reaction when someone else decided to leave, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm really not actually having fun either." Like, oh, now that you mention it.
Here's the thing about the chain reaction, right? If you're not enjoying somebody in the game, there's probably somebody else who isn't
other people
either.
Aren't too.
Right. And so sometimes the chain reaction is just convenient, right? Because people are just like, oh, I see you're out. Cool. I'm out too.
Now
right.
I don't feel obliged to do this as my only way to hang out with you anymore.
And then inevitably you get an email later to be like, hey, like now that like we're not playing this game, like, do you want to run something or do I was thinking of running a game. Do you want to come, play with me?
Do this other thing? Yeah. So yeah. And that's kind of what's happened. So I haven't personally done some of these other ones. Like, I would like to think that if the issue arose for me now, that I would probably go for group discussion in terms of just like reaching consensus, like you were saying. But having not actually experienced it yet, I don't know. I mean, having not experienced it in like these forms, I don't know. I'm sure that someday I'll find out, unfortunately, because life is life, but
I am very fortunate in that the people I game with, I have a very good fit with, and I value that more than the thing we're playing. The truth of the matter is, there are many, many games that I want to play.
Yeah.
Not every game fits the groups that I have. And there are more games out there every day than I could possibly play. So I am more apt in my current situation. If somebody's not having fun in a game, I am less likely to remove them from the game as I am to just shut the game down.
Well, and that depends a lot, but it goes back to like the considerations again, right?
Oh, I'm saying for
bad fit for the game versus a bad fit for the group, like.
Well, and I'm saying this. No, I mean I've even had it as one player. Like I was doing a session 0 for the Spire, right? A game that I was like pretty hot on, and so were some other people in the group. And I was setting up the session 0 for the Spire, and again, expectation setting does a lot for avoiding these problems down the line. But we were in the middle of session 0 when one of my players was like, I got to be honest with you. This is too intense for me.
See,
like I need something less intense. And I stopped and I was like, you know what? We do not have to play this game. Is everybody okay if we just like brainstorm up another game to play? And the rest of the group was like, yeah, it's fine, because in our game group, we value playing together so much that we'll just go find another game.
Well, yeah. So what I'm saying there is, then they're not a bad fit for your group.
No, not in the least.
That game was a bad fit for them, and so
yes,
then
absolutely.
There's a key difference there, because that's about the game being a bad fit for a person, and as a group still being like, cool, we still want to play together, right? And that is different than this person is a bad fit for this group.
Correct. And that's why we separated those out, right?
Yeah.
Like the bad fit for the group, as in you mess with the group dynamics.
Yeah.
There's almost no solution to that other than getting rid of the person.
Yeah.
When the game isn't a good fit, the only reason you get rid of a person is because you value playing the game more than playing with the person. And what I'm saying is, in my current game group, that is just not true.
Right.
Like, I mean, my current game group, I'm wanting to game with those people.
The way that I can remember it happening to you recently was you were in the middle of a game. Someone who had not been there for the expectation setting in session 0 jumped into the game, played for a couple of sessions, realized it wasn't for him, and jumped back out of the game.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Right? Like that's which is like
that's happened. And in that case, it was like, look, You jumped into the game.
Yeah.
You didn't like it.
The game,
You're jumping
the game
out of the
was
game.
already
no
going.
hard feelings.
Yeah, like so. I mean, and that's a different scenario than we're setting up expectations and like this isn't working for us as a group, right?
Yeah, and again, I've been fortunate. It has been some time. It's been some time since I've had a personality problem at a table.
Yeah,
like the people I game with, my local groups. I'm super tight with, and the people that I form new game groups with, I put a lot of consideration into whom I want to do my gaming with.
Yes.
Right? Like, so I don't wind up in situations so much anymore where it's a people problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty, and I don't want to get too far off tangent, but I know enough now about setting expectations that I can be very clear about, like, this is the kind of game I want to play. This is how I want to play it. This is what I get out of a game. And then go find people who are also like, yes, me too.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's helped immensely, right? Like that's helped him. And we could talk about that as a future episode about
we got to wrap this up.
But we got to wrap. So anyway, JT, thank you. Not an easy topic, not a comfortable topic, but I think one that I hope that our approach is helpful, that we presented a lot of options and hopefully you will find the ones that fit your situation.
Right. Yes.
Okay. In order for us to finish this show off, we have to talk about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network, something I know you have prepared. So tell me about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Sure. I'm going to talk about the Gnomecast because I'm on the next episode of the Gnomecast. Haha.
There you go.
Didn't expect me to be prepared like that, huh? So
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
On the Gnomecast, you can catch a bunch of gnomes hanging out, chatting about cool role-playing game stuff, frequently about articles that we have written, but sometimes about just cool game things. In episode 108, which is coming out soon, you can hear me, Jared, and Ange chatting about solo games, which is just cool and interesting stuff, and was really hard for me to stop talking about. So you should go check it out.
Aren't all topics really hard for you to stop talking about?
Not all of them, but many gaming topics are, yes.
If they get you on the Gnomecast, it's hard to get you to stop talking about.
Yeah, because they've chosen a topic that I can wax eloquent about. You know the last one, Andrew was like, we should talk about gaming for streaming and podcasting. I was like, well, this is going to be like a 5-hour show.
Cracks her knuckles, cracks her neck. Let's begin.
All right. You want to do this in half an hour? I don't think so.
Say Senda.
Yes.
How would people find us on the internet if they wanted to?
Well, you can find us on Twitter at Pandas Talk Games. You can find us in the Misdirected Mark forums, which is forums.misdirectedmark.com, or you can drop us an email, panda@misdirectedmark.com. Or you could probably find our TikToks.
Your TikToks, not mine. I don't have any
You
yet.
don't have any TikToks? Anyway.
No, I'm on there to like watch videos, not make videos. Although I have a couple. I have a Gen X one I want to do.
Okay, well, I have some cute fluffy skirts, so, you know.
Anyway, that's really not. Go check out. Anyway, continue.
And Phil, once they find us in one of those places, what could they do with that information? You could duet a TikTok. We should just put up TikToks that are like, give us topics. And then people could duet the TikToks with topics. And we could take their actual audio with the topic in it and put it in the show.
All right, so you can totally do that. Like, if you are TikTok enabled, you could totally do that. If not, on any of the places where you can find us, the Twitters, the forums, email, et cetera, you should leave us some topics just like JT did. Mm-hmm. In fact, JT did it in response to us, who put out a call for potential topics, and it was super useful. I got to be honest, look, we will hang out and talk about, gaming stuff and digitally stuff all day long. But really the goal of the show is to be helpful for the people who listen to it. So we love when people give us topics, right? So send us your topics, your ideas, your thoughts, anything that you want us to kind of talk about. I mean, we just last week did a thing about my thoughts on Cyberpunk Red, right? Like, and now we're talking about advice for how to, remove somebody from your game group. We want to be helpful, right? So we want to do the things that are going to be helpful for you, that are going to make your games better. We're always working on our games, but we also want to help you make your games better because it's important to have those, fun experiences. So leave us those topics. If you like what we do here, elsewhere on the Misdirected Mark Network, please consider supporting our Patreon campaign. You go to patreon.com/MMP. Patrons get access to the after show to this show, which is the former bonus outtakes. But we don't outtake. The after show to the Misdirected
naming conversion.
The after show, we're gonna call it the Bamboo Corner.
Not Pandas After Dark. That's a different.
So you get access to the Misdirected Mark after show, which will be back on the air live streaming tomorrow night.
You say tomorrow night, but they're going to hear this next week.
A week later.
Yes.
And it will also be true tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night it'll still be true. You're correct.
Correct. You get access to the Slack Room for Life, which has been kind of my refuge during these quarantines, which includes if you'd like to just join us on our Friday luncheon. We get together every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. Bring whatever food is appropriate for your time zone.
Second breakfast.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some really cool people stop in as of late. We have some regulars that are pretty much always there. But Jim Likes Games stopped by, which was just fantastic because normally I only really get to see Jim during during convention times, but
there hasn't been conventions.
So in these quarantines, it's really nice to have gotten to see Jim live and direct, and Carl. Chromatic Chameleon, like so many people, like come in and pop out and all of those things.
We get to see the Corgi cam.
PK Sullivan's there. Like it is, like I said, there's a handful of us that are there pretty much week to week, and then there are people who just who when they have time to make it, they make it. We greatly appreciate when people show up. It's a little chaotic. I'm not gonna lie.
I think
once you get 9 or 10 people,
it gets a little wild.
It sometimes gets a little wild. I try to moderate it a little.
We should just.
I try to let it be organic.
We should place categories.
Oh my! I always wanted. I don't always want to play a game. I want to chat with people. But I get what you're saying. We really should be playing Among Us, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, I'm still talking about the patron thing.
Oh my god! Sorry.
God, I want to end the show and talk about other stuff. In the Bamboo Lounge.
Oh boy.
The Bamboo Lounge.
The Bamboo Lounge.
That's it, right there. Bammo.
Get us out of here.
All right, let me get us out of here. Listen, we appreciate your patronage greatly. It makes everything possible on the network, from our hosting to our equipment to all of those things. So your patronage is greatly appreciated. If you're already patroning the show, again, thank you very much. If you are not, which is totally okay, we totally understand, there's another thing you can do that supports our "If you listen to us, you will love us" campaign. Obviously, you can just go tell your friends about us. We appreciate that greatly. But there's one more thing you can do to help strangers find us. What's that thing?
You can leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcast or the podcatcher of your choice. Wow, the words didn't come out of my mouth the same way tonight. Every new review we get really does actually help new people find the show, because that's how the search algorithms work and stuffs. And they also make us feel warm and fuzzy inside. Really
totally.
Warm and fuzzy inside. The thing that you should get your favorite podcaster for the new year is a new review for their podcast. And then you should tell them about it, because none of us can track all of the different places that people are putting them. We would love to read them. They're really delightful and make us happy.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. Say, Senda, I'm not going to do the normal question about the topic, because I don't want to do any kind of show me about people being kicked out of games.
Ditch someone.
Right. I don't want to do that. So, Senda, show me what possible topics we could talk about next week.
Oh, yeah. I got a whole list.
Show me what you got, 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 show me what you got.
This show is a joint production of She's a Super Geek and Misdirected Mark Productions, the media arm of Encoded Designs.
Show me what you got, 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 show me what you got.
I have a click.
I have clicked as well. I see your click and raise you click. No, only one click.
Only one click?
Too many clicks. Well,
Too many clicks.
I don't know. I think if you click the record button a couple times, it screws things up.
I don't know what happens. It says clicked pin. What does that mean in this context? I'm not gonna find out.
Well, no.
No, it says recording. I don't even know.
No.
We're not gonna mess with it.
I've done touching Audacity. Now Audacity is a thing that runs in the background, and
Just
I pay no
goes.
more attention to it.
I know. I'm not looking at the screen that you're on because I'm looking at the Audacity screen right now. I'm going to now rotate my chair.
There we go.
Hello.
I know you're recording on like 2 screens in your warm office. I'm in the basement on a MacBook Air with a blanket over me.
Blanket tucked around you and a sweatshirt, but you haven't put your hood up, so the...
No. It'll mess. You just. I'm giving you this. This is like if I put the hood up, it's.
Then you turn into Darth Vecchione.
I know, but you know what I don't like about the hood.
What?
I don't like the. Like
you don't like that you get pointy?
I don't like the pointy part
You're
of it. I mean, listen.
triangle.
When I'm cold, I like it, right? But like. You know, like, and if I do the hood back, like, and it, like, you know, covers my hair, like, I don't like that. Like, I'm kind of fussy about it. I like. Look, I think if you know me, like, I have fantastic locks of hair, right? Like, it's not long, but it's
luscious hair locks.
I do. So, you know, I like to just let it show. All right, you ready?
Yes. Let's
All
start the show.
Start the show.
My God.
That's some good material right there. Okay. Boom, boom.
That was a really sort of lethargic approach.
I thought I was trying to go for trepidatious, not lethargic.
Okay.
Like as in like hesitation, like concern.
Sure. No, I'm
okay. I didn't want to be like, I'm sleepy. Like, all right.